$500 million disappeared before sunrise. Most people would call that a catastrophe. I call it a filter. Because when you build at scale, losses don't destroy you. They reveal you. The notification came in at 4:12 a.m. New York time. Markets reacting. Media circling. Competitors whispering. $500 million erased in a single trading session. For average minds, that number feels fatal. For empire builders, it is information, and information is leverage. You are not here because you think small. You are here because you feel it. That pull toward something larger than a job, larger than a paycheck, larger than approval. Stay close to this circle. Subscribe if you understand that wealth is not noise, it is structure. This space is not for spectators, it is for architects. When my company lost $500 million overnight, I did not panic. I did not call an emergency meeting fueled by fear. I did not refresh stock charts every 30 seconds like a gambler watching dice roll across a table in Las Vegas. I slept calmly, because if a single night can destroy you, you never built power. You built illusion. Money is not the foundation. Positioning is. Control is. Timing is. By 6:00 a.m., my executive team was waiting on a secure line. Their voices were tight, controlled. But I could hear the question beneath their updates. Are we in trouble? I let the silence sit. Leaders who rush to speak reveal insecurity. Leaders who pause control the temperature of the room. Here is what most entrepreneurs misunderstand. A $500 million loss is rarely about the money. It is about perception. Wall Street reacts to fear faster than it reacts to facts. Retail investors move emotionally. Analysts downgrade to protect their reputations. Headlines are written for clicks, not context. The market is a psychological battlefield, and most players show up unarmed. I don't. We reviewed the numbers. The fundamentals were intact. Cash reserves strong. Debt structured intelligently. Long-term contracts locked in across multiple states. Our exposure was temporary. The reaction was exaggerated, which meant one thing: opportunity was forming. This is the moment where average founders shrink. They cut vision. They retreat. They apologize for ambition. They start playing defense. I expand. Understand this clearly. If your company can lose $500 million overnight and still breathe, you are not fragile. You are misunderstood. And misunderstood companies, like misunderstood leaders, are often ahead of their time. Around the third hour, I made a decision that surprised everyone. We accelerated expansion while fear was thick in the air. We negotiated acquisitions. Assets were suddenly discounted. Competitors were distracted. Liquidity was drying up for smaller players. That is when empires are built. Not in comfort, in compression. Most people believe success is built during growth cycles. That is a comforting lie. True dominance is built during contractions, when capital tightens, when headlines scream, when weak operators reveal themselves. Let me shift something in your mind right now. If losing $500 million would end you, you are thinking too small, not because you need $500 million in the bank, but because you are building without depth. You are building something that depends on perfect conditions, and perfection does not exist in American markets. Not in tech, not in real estate, not in media, not in private equity. If you are serious about building your empire, comment empire below. Not for me, for yourself. Declare it. Words shape identity. Identity shapes decisions. Decisions shape wealth. Back to that morning, by noon, the stock was still bleeding. News anchors were speculating. Social media analysts were diagnosing our collapse. It was almost entertaining. Because while they were reacting to yesterday's data, I was positioning for tomorrow's leverage. Here is the perspective twist most people never see. A massive public loss creates narrative space, and narrative space can be rewritten. We issued a calm statement. No defensive tone, no desperation, just clarity. We outlined long-term contracts, reaffirmed guidance, announced a strategic buyback program. When you buy back your own stock during fear, you send a signal. We believe in our future more than the market believes in its panic. The next 48 hours were quiet, intentional silence. Behind the scenes, we secured 2 partnerships that had been stalled for months. Why did they move forward now? Because volatility changes negotiation power. When others fear instability, they seek alignment with strength. That is your edge. Not capital, not connections, composure. Composure is rare, especially in the United States, where speed is glorified and reaction is mistaken for leadership. True power moves slowly, decisively, with data. 5 days later, the bleeding stopped. 2 weeks later, the stock stabilized. 3 months later, we were trading above the level we had before the drop. The same analysts who downgraded us were publishing redemption pieces about our resilience. I did not celebrate. Validation from people who doubted you is not victory. Execution is. Let me tell you what actually happened during that $500 million loss. We identified inefficiencies that had been hidden by growth. We restructured divisions that were bloated. We renegotiated vendor contracts. We replaced 3 executives who were excellent during expansion but weak during pressure. Crisis clarifies talent. If you are building something meaningful, you will face a version of this moment. Maybe not $500 million. Maybe it is your first failed product, your first lawsuit, your first investor pulling out, your first viral backlash. The scale is different. The psychology is identical. Average people interpret loss as identity. Empire builders interpret loss as data. You must detach your ego from numbers. Revenue can fluctuate, valuation can swing. Public opinion can shift overnight. Your vision cannot. The reason I remained calm that morning is simple. My wealth is not tied to one quarter. It is tied to systems, diversified assets, long-term equity positions, real estate across multiple markets from Miami to Austin to Manhattan, private holdings that never see headlines. When you build properly, no single storm can sink you. This is the level you are stepping into. Not hustle culture, not overnight success. Structural power. Send this to someone who thinks bigger than average. Someone who understands that temporary losses are tuition, not tragedy. The most dangerous person in any market is not the loudest, not the richest. It is the one who cannot be shaken. When competitors realized we were not reacting emotionally, their strategy collapsed. Because many had positioned against our panic. When panic did not arrive, their leverage evaporated. Control your emotional volatility and you control your financial volatility. There is something else I need you to understand. Losing $500 million overnight exposed who was loyal and who was transactional. Some investors called with support, others disappeared. Some employees leaned in, others updated their resumes. Pressure is a truth serum, and I welcome truth. As your empire grows, your circle must tighten. Not emotionally, strategically. Access is earned through alignment. By the end of that quarter, our internal culture had shifted. Stronger, sharper, less naive. We no longer chased applause. We built for durability, and durability compounds. We did not just recover the money, we restructured the foundation. The next year, revenue grew beyond projections. Margins improved. Market share expanded. The same $500 million loss that headlines called catastrophic became the catalyst for a billion-dollar strategic pivot. That is the part average observers never see. They see the drop. They miss the design. You are not building for applause cycles. You are building for decades. For generational leverage, for the kind of wealth that changes how rooms respond when you enter them. And here is the truth that only a few will absorb. One day, you will experience a moment that feels like everything is slipping, numbers falling, support fading, noise rising. In that moment, you will either react like the crowd or respond like an architect. Architects do not fear broken pieces. They redesign. $500 million vanished before sunrise. And by sunset, I was already planning the next acquisition. This is the standard: calm in chaos, expansion in contraction, vision beyond volatility. The future does not belong to those who avoid loss. It belongs to those who absorb it, analyze it, and weaponize it. You are not here to survive markets. You are here to shape them. Stay disciplined, stay quiet, build wide moats and deeper reserves. Think in decades. Move in silence. And when the world panics, let them, because panic is expensive and you are becoming priceless. The next transformation is not about making more money. It is about increasing control over assets, over narrative, over timing. And when your version of a $500 million morning arrives, you will not flinch. You will adjust your strategy, tighten your circle, and expand your reach. That is how empires are formed. Not in comfort, in calculated storms. The market will test you. The media will doubt you. Even people close to you may question your direction. Let them. You are not building for consensus. You are building for inevitability, and inevitability is quiet at first, then unstoppable. We do not chase stability, we create it. We do not fear volatility, we profit from it. We do not measure ourselves by temporary losses, we measure by permanent power. This is your elevation point. This is where average ambition ends and empire thinking begins. The next time numbers drop, breathe, observe, calculate, expand. Because the future you are building cannot be erased overnight. It can only be strengthened, and we are just getting started.